President Donovan, members of the Board of Trustees, I accept with great humility the degree conferred today. But I mostly thank you for this great honor of talking with students, because truly, there is no greater honor for a teacher than to spend her last time in that role talking to students. Graduates, I've struggled with this because you're all at different places. Some of you are finishing a first college degree, looking for work, maybe having begun it recently. Some of you are completing master's degrees, perhaps after sitting out for a while, retooling for a new career. Some of you are completing terminal degrees, the doctoral level. And I'm retiring altogether. I'm not nearly as qualified as other commencement speakers to talk about the world of work and industry and professions that await you. But you'll find those mentors if you haven't already. And I know for sure our faculty and staff have provided you with the knowledge and skills you need. So let me talk a bit about life, which I hope Bellarmine has also talked with you about. And I begin with a line from the poet Mary Oliver that a lot of people have heard me quote, which is on my refrigerator door, so I read it every day. She says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" It can sound sweet, can't it? Even a little syrupy. But I hear a directive. Tell me. And I hear a clear focus on intentionality. What do you plan to do with your life? Not, hey, what are you hoping for? Not, ooh, if you had some wishes, what would they be? No, says Oliver. We're the primary agent of our lives. And if we were to live them to the fullest, planning is involved, because it won't just happen. I hope you view your experience at Bellarmine as having helped you enormously in thinking about what you want to do with your lives, regardless of where you are in your professional and personal journeys. I hope you reflect on your time as having been one where you honed knowledge and skills specific to disciplines, as well as ideas and interpersonal skills that transcend all areas of study. In short, I hope your time with us has helped you become better human beings. We all keep working at that, don't we? And today I share 3 images with you that I hope will help us think about that. And believe it or not, the first one is dancing. Seems like every time I turn on the TV, there's another dance show, and I'll admit it, I love them all, especially the ballroom competition. But if you've watched any of them, here's what I think we want to think about. Individuals audition, but when they compete, they dance with partners. And in some of the challenges, all of the couples are dancing on the same floor simultaneously, and that's the one that blows me away. I wonder, what kind of talent does it take, not just to dance well, but dance those same steps in perfect unison with another person, and do it on the dance floor with other couples. I'll be honest, I'm always afraid they're going to trip all over themselves, but they never do. They all glide around the floor together while the rest of us stare in wonder. This is addressed in the play Master Harold and the Boys, which is a coming-of-age story. The mentor for young Hallie is named Sam, and Sam himself is practicing to compete in ballroom dancing, and Hallie doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. But Sam tells him, Hallie, being on the dance floor is, quote, like being in a dream world where accidents don't happen. Why? Because each individual out there has developed the knowledge and skills of each dance. Each person has embraced the personal responsibility and discipline to aspire to greatness. But it doesn't end there, does it? Yesterday, Drew Chandler said in a speech at the honors brunch something that gets to what I'm saying. He said, just knowing things isn't enough. No dancer wins just by walking out on the dance floor and busting some moves, no matter how good they are. Judges want to see them with partners, on a shared floor with other couples, which speaks to how well each person can dance with others. No matter how good we might be at solo dancing, if we ignore everyone around us, it's a mess. Sam describes this in the play when he contrasts dancing with real life. And he says, in real life, quote, we're bumping into each other all the time. They're big collisions, and they make for a lot of bruises. People get hurt in all that bumping, and we're sick and tired of it now. It's been going on for too long. Are we never going to get it right? Learn to dance life like champions instead of always being just a bunch of beginners at it? I ask myself that question every day, especially when I watch the news and read about the collisions that affect all of us. I hope your time at Bellarmine has helped you become a more competent, qualified person in your chosen field, a better dancer in your respective fields, but I hope we've also reminded you that wherever you work and wherever life takes you, your work, your dancing is always done with others in a shared environment, whether that's an accounting firm, a hospital floor, a DPT clinic, a nonprofit organization, your home, your church, your neighborhood, you name it. What you know definitely matters, but so do the ways you use that knowledge, the way you dance. To that image, I hope Bellarmine has reminded you of the difference between a career, my work, and a vocation, whom I serve with that work. A vocation, a calling, says theologian Frederick Buechner, is where your great passion, our great passion, intersects with the world's great needs. When we ignore the larger communities and just do our own thing, big collisions happen, and people get hurt in all that bumping. I hope Bellarmine has challenged you and helped you dance like champions. My second image also points to the individual within community. When I was 33, my only brother, my only sibling in fact, committed suicide, a devastating event from which I wondered if my mother, father, and I would ever recover. If you've seen the play Hamilton or listened to the soundtrack, I'm sure you remember the haunting song at the end after a tragic event in his life. They sing, "There are moments that the words don't reach. There is suffering too terrible to name. If you see him in the street, walking by himself, talking to himself, have pity. He's trying to do the unimaginable." I always think of my father and his reaction to losing his only son when I hear that. But here's the moment, and it's really important that you hear it. Here's the moment I want to have you take away from this. I still remember it 30 years later. My parents and I were sitting in the mass of remembrance, broken beyond words. I have to say what we just saw happen is going to reinforce what I'm saying. And thank you for the reverence with which you held that graduate at this moment. So I want you to see my father and my family sitting in church at the Mass of Remembrance for my brother. The day before, he had literally collapsed to the floor in the funeral home. Took 4 men to lift him. 20 hours later, here's your image. The recessional is beginning, and I hear next to me my father belt out, not whisper, belt out these words from one of his favorite hymns, the only one he'd asked me to make sure was in the funeral. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Given what happened before, how's this possible? And I think there are 2 things I'd like to leave with you here. The first is, Bud Pfeffer spent his life developing core principles from which he derived meaning beyond himself, something to sustain him beyond any collision, no matter how tragic. And I really admired him for this. But let's don't miss the second reality. And we just saw evidence of it just a minute ago. He could sing because he wasn't singing alone. He was singing within a larger community of his Catholic faith, his parish church, enormous circle of family and friends. When we processed out of that church following my brother's casket, I looked at a church filled with family and friends also singing their hearts out, maybe through tears, but they were singing, supporting us each and every step of the way. And I thought to myself, so this is what community looks like and feels like. You saw it a minute ago when immediately his colleagues yelled, "Help, help, we need help." And we all responded. So that's what community feels like. I hope your time at Bellarmine has provided opportunities for each of you to examine and nurture meaning in your life, where it's anchored, how it informs your worldview, and that of the people with whom you share your lives, with whom you share your dance floors, how that meaning shapes your goals, not just what you want to do, but who you want to be. I hope your time in classes, educational experiences outside the formal classrooms, conversations with faculty and staff and friends, I hope all of that has fostered in each of you a habit of thinking deeply about profound realities and mysteries, what you believe. What's greater than thou art? And I hope we've been careful in reminding all of us that others with whom we share our lives might find their true north, their meaning, in a different set of principles. And they might sing differently, with melodies and lyrics different than their own, but they're singing too, and they're on our dance floor too. I hope we've reminded all of us that it's hard work to create community, but we have a duty to do it, an obligation to create it, a space where each of us is held when we've been in a collision, when you've been in a collision. Community that not only helps reduce the number of those big collisions, but to attend to it when it's all a mess and we face the unimaginable. Think about it. We could have told you to show up at the registrar's office, grab your diploma, and be done with it. But here we all are, gathered on this dance floor, literally surrounding you, celebrating all of you, and rejoicing with you as we publicly applaud this milestone in your lives. We're all a part of your journey in some way, and we're better for it. And you're better for having all of us as part of your journey as well, celebrating your dancing like champions to finish these degrees. Which leads me to my final point and image: celebration. For those of us a little older, we remember in 1995 the Hale-Bopp comet, one of the most widely observed in the 20th century. I love that kind of stuff. So I had my telescope out like everybody else, and I was stunned by what I saw. But that's not my image for you today. Instead, picture this. I'm walking down a side road in my neighborhood, walking the dogs, of course, and I see a father with, it looked to be like a 4-year-old, maybe 5-year-old son. And I was smitten with this image, so I stopped to watch. I watched the little boy go up to the telescope and look, and he turned around, and I was a little surprised by his reaction. I thought he'd just be giddy with it, but he wasn't. He was a little bit serious. And then I watched that little fella look up at his daddy and say, "This is the best day of my life." Not how pretty the comet is. This is the best day of my life. That unabashed wonder still moves me almost 25 years later. And I know part of it was he was sharing that with his daddy. But even at that age, he was smart enough to know grace and wonder when he saw it and stop and let it wash all over him, like we're doing today with each of you. Yeah, life has its big collisions, but it's filled with countless beauties, wonders, and graces. And I urge you and all of us to be intentional in attending to, basking in those moments that can truly overwhelm us with beauty and awe and joy and gratitude. Moments that speak to those greater mysteries and meaning in our lives. Moments to fill our souls. So what do we plan to do with our wild and precious lives? I think we could do worse than try to dance like champions. I think we could do worse than continually try to nurture meaning in our lives. I think we could do worse than giving ourselves over to building and strengthening the communities in which we live, work, and play. And we could do worse than taking a moment now and then to utter with praise, "This is the best day of my life." And this one's pretty swell for me, too. Graduates, if you'll permit me one moment. I say to my wonderful colleagues, thank you for allowing me to share the Bellarmine dance floor with you for 30 years, for making me a better dancer, and for always forgiving me when I cause collisions. Had my fair share. Serving with you has been one of the greatest joys and privileges of my life. I'll miss you all, our wonderful students, and I can't even put that in words. Dr. Donovan, thank you for the privilege of serving with you for 2 years. If I was a lot younger and had more pep, I'd proudly serve at your side, moving forward as you guide this university to greater heights. And graduates, some of you might be staying for another degree, but most of us are taking our leave today. But this we know, will always be a part of Knights Nation. As we all journey forth wherever we are in our travels, I hope and trust we'll strive to live out each and every day our university motto, in veritatis amore, in love of truth. And I hope as we leave one moment and begin another in our journeys, that you can say with me, in the words of poet E.E. Cummings, "For all that has been, thanks. To all that will be, yes." Congratulations. God bless each and every one of you. God bless this great university, and go Knights.